something I've read. But the fact that I get to learn bits and pieces about others, I'm always willing to read up to the end because of that. Yeah.
Thank you, Esther. I think you'll be able to, during the discussion, tell us some of the insights you had. Kangelwa?
Hi guys. I didn't finish the book. I think I'm on chapter 20 something. Not sure where, so I'm still listening through it. It's been a while. It's a bit too much for me. I listen and just stop because I do get irritated sometimes. But I'm glad we picked this book because as much as it sounds like the issues are obvious. I mean, it was written, or it sounds like the story happened in the 80s, but if you think about it, people are still going through the things that the book is talking about. So as much as we might feel like, but why are we still talking about this? The point is, it is still happening. It is still quite a what it is a reality of a lot of women in one way or another. And also, it just got me reflecting on how complicated and complex patriarchy is. It is just too layered, and I kind of found myself putting myself in the shoes of people that are in the story and trying to understand why exactly are they getting themselves into these situations. Someone else can go through.
Thanks for those insights, Kangelwa. We've got Kiamo Khetu next.
I think it's Flora first.
I
Or is
agree.
Is it
It's
Flora
Flora
first?
first, yeah.
Okay, Flora. Thank you for that.
Yeah, this book was a disappointment, especially after I read the synopsis at the back. It spoke about friendship, women navigating life, and yeah, for me again, if it wasn't for the club book club read, I wouldn't have bothered with this book. Honestly, very disappointed.
Okay, and you felt like, did you feel that the themes are themes that you've read before? Is that why?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. I'm tired of struggle, black love, abuse, and also just the mom pushing this her daughter to be with this man at all cost. Yeah, it was tired for me.
Okay, okay, fair. Thank you for that. Kiamo Khetu?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. This was something that we've all read and in some form, shape, or fashion. And it had me wondering, like, I'm clearly there was like an era in, I hope I'm not wrong for putting it this way, but like in Nigerian writing where the authors were all like gathered on this theme. Like I actually need to go back and see what year this was written and like see which other books that we've read with similar themes when those were written. And another thing is like Kanyalo was saying that it really, as much as it was pure rage bait fuel, like I was screaming every few pages. I was screaming at the characters. I was screaming at the mother. As much as it's pure rage fuel, it reminded me of like how the social media discourse we have today around relationships sounds exactly the same as it does in this book, even though the story was like taking place in the 70s or the 80s. And like there was that page, I'm sorry if this is a spoiler for anybody, but there was that page where they were in the church and it was that marriage convention where people were going up and asking questions and stuff. And there was a man in the crowd that stood up and there was like, and he was like, why are the women these days not like our mothers? They're not like, and I was like, sir, come to 25. I'm sure the men will 2025, the men will love to have you this side. But in other themes, it was interesting seeing how the family was trying to navigate the loss of their uncle. It was interesting also when I had to think about it from a perspective of like, listen, as horrid as the mother was, as awful as she was, she was just as much a victim of the system, of the patriarchy itself, as everybody else was. And as awful as her actions and her things that she said, she was really trying to do the best for her daughter, or like make sure that her daughter could get the life that she maybe had hoped for at some point, or like, because you wouldn't push somebody out of you for you to genuinely not want to have good done for them or on them. So it was very odd trying to link how the mother was actually trying to do good for her daughter by being an absolutely abominable human being. But yeah, I'm very much over the awful husband story, the patriarchy story. It's very tired, yeah.
Thanks for bringing up the themes that we're going to discuss. I think the mother-daughter relationship, very important, and the reason why the mother was pushing her daughter to be in this relationship and this marriage is something that we're going to discuss as well extensively. So thank you for bringing that up. Rachel, do you want to say anything about your thoughts about the book when you finished it, whether you thought it was a worthwhile exercise or not, or do you want to speak about a specific theme? Because I'm kind of going to be delving next into specific themes.
Oh, it's not about a specific theme. It's about how I felt after reading the book, but which
Yeah.
is what everyone else has kind of mentioned, which is the book didn't feel very original to me. There was like nothing new I learned. It just felt, maybe it's because I read a lot of African literature that have explored the same themes in the book, and even though it's the same themes that have been explored that I've read about, there was like no new thing about it, something that like grabbed my attention. It's like, wow, I've never seen it from this perspective. It just felt very repetitive to me, and it was quite disappointing. And I also didn't have like any character that I liked. I mean, like the book is like 400 pages, but it's like, how is it possible that there's like no character that I like? Everyone else was just so underwhelming. For example, the brother who married like the 20 someone who's like 20 years younger than him, but he tried to stand up for his sister in the marriage. Like that was just also just boring. Yeah. So yeah, that's my thoughts overall.
Thank you, Rachel. I think a lot of you kind of feel from the summation of everything that you've said that you've encountered. If you're somebody who reads a lot of African literature and a lot of feminist literature, you've encountered the story before. Flora, is your hand up an old hand, or is there something you want to add? I'm going to assume it's an old hand. Anyway, so as I was saying, that the themes are themes that you've experienced before, read about before, and a lot of you seem to feel that there was no new offering in any way in this book. For me, I found it interesting that, and I read a lot of African literature and literature that deals with feminist themes and patriarchy in the African context, and especially in the Nigerian context. But what I found interesting in this book is the inclusion of class. There's always this idea sometimes that the reason why women stay in relationship is based on class, right? You come from a poor background, it's your escape out of poverty. But I did appreciate the fact that the author made Uju's character come from a middle class or even upper middle class family, somebody who was educated as well, right? She's almost completing her degree and has ambitions, etc. Did the inclusion of kind of this class theme in any way shape how you viewed Uju and her decision making? Flora? Flora, is this an old hand? Okay, I'm going to go
I
to
think it might be
Giamogetse.
an old guy.
Great, thank you. Giamogetse, do you want to say something there?
Yes, actually, that is a very, very interesting point. I think the value in having made Uju's background a sort of a middle class background was to show how, as educated as you may be, patriarchy will still get its clutches in your mind as a woman to make you feel the necessity of or rather the imagined necessity of being married. And that even if you are, as a woman, successful, just like Sally was, it's not recognized, it's not enough for you to be successful in your own right. You have to have a husband. Even in the church, they kept saying, even if a man is useless, a husband is a husband, something like that. So yeah, that is, I think, a good indicator that even if you are successful, you are intelligent, you are beautiful, if you do not have a husband, you are not a woman. And obviously, as we've seen in the book, even when you do have a husband, there's still another level to be unlocked in womanhood. You need to have the kids, and if you have the kids, it needs to be a boy. If there's a boy, it needs to be more than one, because if it's not one, if it's just one, it's as good as finished. I think they said something along those lines. So it's like, it's almost as if it's a weird thing to say, but it's almost as if your existence as a woman is just inherently not enough.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you've said. And that for me was important, this inclusion of class. I thought it was an interesting perspective. Kanyelwa, what do you think of the inclusion of class in this book?
Um, well, to be honest, I didn't think about it, but now that you're mentioning it, I don't think class matters. Every level that you're on, whether you're still at high school, you're at varsity, you're working, wherever, there's always male-centered women. There's patriarchy. Women are trying to get married. There's relationship issues. It doesn't matter the class. Women are dealing with this, poor or rich.
And I know you're saying that class doesn't matter from obviously being a victim, right? But do you think that the inclusion of her being from a middle class family and educated shaped how you viewed her options, right? Because having access to money and a family and a home, as well as an education, afforded her options to, I guess, to some extent, maybe leave her marriage earlier. But that
No,
didn't seem to
yeah.
factor in her decision making.
No, I don't think it did. I think her mother was just too controlling, which got her into quite a lot of this. I mean, she kind of planted the seed of her having to, even if you have a degree, you still need to get a husband. So I think her mom was the issue here. It doesn't matter if she was poor or whatever, but if the mom was not as controlling as she is, maybe she might have taken a different route.
Okay, hold on to that thought about the fact that if her mom wasn't as controlling, she might have chosen a different route, because that's going to be the next question after this question, the class question. Deborah, you were next.
Thank you, Lakini. And it's gonna be very tricky for me to fully articulate my point without stringing along the mother, because even though everything is, we can preach patriarchy, but the way that Uju's character is explained from the beginning, we could tell from the word go that what had she given the freedom to do what she wanted, she would have been very successful in her own right. But because there was this voice that kept saying, no, what do you mean you're going to think about, you're going to take time to think about getting married? What do you mean you're young? You're going to marry that man. Her goal was to just get her education and go to school. Patriarchy aside, her mind was, she had the access, and then oftentimes we also say, we keep saying, oh, women just marry so young because they have no other options. The class issue, she had options, and she had the will, and she had the drive. But there was this voice that kept saying, listen, your dreams are not going to be validated here. Your only goal as a woman is you need to become MRS. Had that not been there, class or not, she would have I mean she got a bursary go skolo. You know, she would have done way better for herself than she did had it not been for your next question.
Great, thank you, Tebogo. Kamukelo, you're next.
No, I just wanted to touch back to what Kia was also talking about, Kiamukhetu. Just to expand on that point where the women in the book, their womanness is tied to the man in terms of whether it being married or raising a man or two, and how like it's never detached. They can never be a standalone person in any case, and that the fact that exceptionalism doesn't guarantee you an escape from like the whole system that functions around you. Like even if you're a woman, you won't be like treated exceptional because you're a woman in this whole sphere. Even if you're of like and it also applies to like marginalized groups in general, where like you can be exceptional in a room, but you'll be treated differently because you are who you are as an essence of that.
No, I totally agree. And it's one of the discussion points that I want to raise when we talk about Sally, right? Because Sally offers the alternative, but the question is, does it come at a cost or not? So I'm going to park that for when we talk about Sally. This idea that even if you go against the grain and you defy societal pressures, there's still a price to it, as you said, Gambo. So I'm going to come back to that when we discuss Sally. Snetemba?
I just want to say to Kamu's point, the whole thing of the woman cannot exist outside of a man is part of the reason why I hated the ending also. But I'm sure
Oh
we'll
no,
talk about the ending
park
later.
that. We're
Yes,
gonna get to the ending. Park that. I think a lot of us have views on that ending. So park that. Let me then go to the next topic, right? And I think the biggest agitators of all our emotions during this book reading was the mother, and just what a horrible, horrible, horrible person she was. I was angry throughout the book, literally from page one till the end. I was just like, this can't, it can't be. There's like no redemption for this woman, and I kept hoping that she would be a redeemable character, and she wasn't. And this is one of those books there where there was no development at all from the mother's side. I think when we read was it which book? Oh, the only his only wife. That mother changed right through the book. Um, in this book, there was none of that. And what I want to discuss here is mother-daughter dynamics. Um, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can, even though you've left the meeting.
Oh, sorry, I had a call come in, and yeah, you see, using both devices. So I wanted to talk about mother-daughter dynamics. You know, Uju's mother is this staunch traditionalist who influences Uju to endure abuse and often invoking like marriage and motherhood as the ultimate goal. And my question is, how do you think mother-daughter relationships influence intergenerational trauma? Um, and you know, just your views on just this mother-daughter relationship and how the decisions that the mother makes influence intergenerational trauma. Leah?
Yeah, hi everyone. I just want to point out on the one thing that I think was not very prominent, but I feel like it is some sort of, in a way, emotional baggage on the girl, and that was the way she was sort of like forced to carry the stress and everything that came with the mom looking for her brother. I kind of feel like the whole, like when she was, because it seems like it started when she was very little, and just having her, like seeing how she was carrying that burden on behalf and even sometimes with the mom, in a way just shows how as in how it has shaped her people pleasing tendencies, which I think is just a trauma response. And I think because of that, she ended up trying to, put herself in her mom's, like every time there was an issue, I think she kept on using that every time her mom would treat her badly, she kept on using that as the reason why her mom was doing it. And that was kind of something she was holding on to as their bonding moment. And I think it just goes to show how most families, I think, I don't know if it's most families, but let me say some, have really just have been forced as children to internalize emotional baggage that they are not old enough to take. And it kind of shapes their relationships more or less with their parents, especially with their mothers. And it's a very subtle abuse in my opinion. And I think it goes from generation to generation, because it wasn't very prominent for other generations in this book, but I kind of think that it's something that the main character, I don't know if she passed it on to her daughter. And in one way or another, you can tell by the way she was coming in to help in when the dad was fighting, when the dad was beating the mom, and she was there, and even to the end it became detrimental to her own safety. And so I kind of feel like that's one of the ways, it was kind of subtle, but it shows how mother-daughter relationships just pass on trauma from one family to another, especially because of the relationships that the mothers who are very male-centered usually have with either their spouses or their family members. And also, other than that, I think it's the obvious one where the mom, and the whole idea of how marriage should look for the mom, it really shaped who the main character became. But I think I'll leave that to someone else to talk about. But for me, the one that was really profound was that just the mother-daughter inappropriate relationship, especially when it came to picking up trauma and picking up baggage that was not appropriate for the child, and being forced to carry it with the mom along the way. So that's just my contribution. Thank you. That's all from me, Lakeni.
Thanks, Leah. Unia?
I wanted to add on what Leah has said about mother-daughter relationships, and when you're burdened as a child, you're burdened with these huge responsibilities that a child shouldn't have to carry.
My
It's
sound
called
is gone. Yunya, are you? Catherine, can you just take over with the thing
No,
while I
we
sort
can
this
hear
out?
you.
All
We
right.
can hear you. Your sound is
Okay,
not.
cool. Go ahead, Inya.
Okay, I was saying that's called parentification. So when you're a child and you're given these huge emotional tasks to carry, you're like parenting your parent. So when your mother is being beaten by your father and you're seeing it, and your mother comes either to cry to you or you're the one nursing her wounds, in the long run, you become like a parent to your parent, even though you're a child. So when you grow up into an adult, now you become a people pleaser because you do not know how to exist without being of help to other people. So if you have relationships with people who do not need anything from you, then you feel lost. So you kind of also start attracting or relating only with people who are broken or who need to be fixed. So you take the role of a fixer in people's lives. And also, I might be getting ahead of myself, but if you've read the sequel to this, you see how the daughter's relationships in the next book turn out because of what happened to her as a child. Yeah, thank you.
Connie.
Interesting.
Okay. Connie, you're next.
Sure, guys. When it comes to this whole mother and daughter dynamic, I think as women, as mothers, we need to hold each other's hands and go for counseling, because we see it so often in mother and daughter relationship, in mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship. We take out our trauma into the next generation, as opposed to say, just because I had a tough time, it needs to end with me. We go to, it happened to me, therefore it must happen to you. It frustrates the hell out of me that after everything you went through as a girl, as a woman, you want to do it to your own daughters or your daughter-in-laws. It boggles my mind. I don't know how that works. Why are you not making sure it ends with you? If you had such a hard time as a woman, why do you want to take it further into the next generation? So it really frustrates me every time I read a book like this. I see anything relating to this. It's so triggering to me. Yeah, that's my take about the whole mother and daughter situation. It's not even that you don't know any better. It's I did it, therefore you must do it as well. You know, yeah, that's me.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Connie.
Connie.
Kia, and then Tebogo.
Yeah, I think like Kenny had touched on this a little bit about how the mother didn't have like a redeeming backstory that humanized her a little bit more. They really tried on that one paragraph where she moved back home the second time and she was getting her life together. I think I'm not sure if she was working again by then, but they were having this conversation where the mother was telling her about who or how her dad really was before she came along and how awful he also was, how a playboy he also was. But I don't think that was fleshed out enough because it ended up being a situation where she ended up saying something like, after what my mother told me about my father, I had tears streaming down my face or something like that. So we don't even have like real and true detailing of how she had to like step through the understanding of what her father really was to her mother to see the similarities. So we don't even have that story itself. So that trying to humanize her wasn't done very well. I don't know if it was because the book was already long and full of nothing, or why exactly they didn't like expand on that. But another thing about the mother, this specific mother and daughter, I'm not sure if everybody else can relate to this as well, but like it felt like her mother saw her as an extension of her further success as a mother and as a woman and as a wife, because her staying in that marriage is testament to how well she raised her daughter, as is how they sort of understand it. So that is, I feel like, another propelling thing that kept her pushing to stay in this marriage, to be like, if you fail, that says that I'm also a failure. And that's why she kept just wanting her to persist on, even though, as Connie is saying it baffles me because it's like, you know the cost of this. Why would you want your own child to experience the very same thing? And that brings me to another theme of like, I think Uju had touched on it very briefly as like a passing thought that she had, of how it's almost as if even though the women know that what they are preparing their daughters for, to be from 10 years old, you're asking them, is this what you're going to cook for your husband? It's like they are preparing them for the world that they live in, not the world that they envision, not the world that they want for their daughters, which is very sad because it's like, for how much longer are we going to keep preparing our girls for the world that they live in and not what we envision, when we should be making sure that what we envision is the world that they can live in? So it's a very complicated thing for me when I think about the mother-daughter relationship, because I'm blessed enough not to have had it go that specific way with my own mother. So it's a mess. This woman is awful. But like, I really tried to think on her part and give her grace, but she's damn awful. Oh my God.
Thanks, Kia. I want to just touch on something before I let really talk. One of the things that, because you touched on it about that kind of later in the book, where she tells Uju about how her dad was, right? And some of the mistreatment and abuse she endured, right? And one of the things she talks about, though, is also how Uju was the reason the dad became a better person.
But
do you think that impacted how she treated Uju? Because you have two paths, right? You could try, you could want to do better for your child, but it seems to be, for me, it seemed like that played a factor in her wanting to perpetuate the abuse, because he didn't change because he loved her, which is not something she wanted, right? Despite doing everything she could to be the perfect wife, he changed when he was
came
born.
along.
Not when the brothers were born, not when she did her best.
Oh, I
She,
never
and
thought of
she
it
became
that
the
way.
center of
Yeah, yeah.
his life, right? Because she was like, this person came and he became a better person. And yeah, do you
It's
think
the
that played some
age-old
factor?
it's the age-old story we're hearing these days of how no, you don't know what it's like to treat women the way you treat them until you have your own daughter, and then you'll see. And it's like, so now you as a man need to have a daughter for you to see another woman as a human being and treat her accordingly is insane. Is absolutely insane. But you are onto something when you talk about how it can also almost give like a competitive sort of thing where it's like the mother now sees the daughter as opposition because now this man, I did everything right, I sacrificed everything, and he only started acting somewhat decently when you came around. So that could be another thing of like why there was always a tug and war in between the both of them. So that's a very good point, actually. I think I can agree with you on that one. That could definitely be something that we look at.
Okay. No, thank you for that. And thank you for bringing that up to just, yeah, anchor me to just thinking about that as well. Kamo, you're next. Kamo? Was that an old hand?
No, it's Tebogo.
Oh, Tebogo, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
That's okay. Thank you. This whole mother-daughter thing there.
Oh no,
okay. This is a lot. So, okay. So my understanding of it is that Uju's mother had already decided what success is going to look like for her and her family. And because she didn't have individual success for her as a young woman, and then she just became a wife very quickly. So she already had an idea. And that idea was she's going to have a nuclear family and all her children are going to be married. They're going to start their own families and they're going to have boys. Anything other than that was not welcomed. So even when she had Uju, and then her father sort of changed, she wanted to make sure that you are not going to embarrass me, because generally during that time boys are easy, right? Boys just have to just be boys and then marry and do that. So Uju's mother decided you're not going to embarrass me, you're going to get married, and then you're going to stay in the marriage, and then you're going to bear children. So there was nothing else. She didn't see her daughter getting educated. Her need for her success, as successful as an idea of a family, was greater than the love and the well-being of her children, and specifically her daughter. She didn't love her daughter enough to actually protect her from the ills of the world or from the ills of marriage or whatever it is, from the bruises that she would come with. There was no love there. She didn't have that maternal instinct to protect her from that. She was just driven by what success looks like for her, and that was it. And this confirmed for me on page 63, because at the beginning of the book I was easing into it. I was like, you know what, this woman is a problem, but there's hope. Yes, bending a temper, I had hope. And then when she said, when Uju remembered that Mama said to never criticize a husband's fault, as it may have been those little imperfections that stopped him from getting a better wife. That for me screamed that the mother was already saying, you are lucky to have anyone look your way, even if it's a possum. Marry that damn possum as long as it's male. That mother did not instill in her daughter that you can be great, you can marry the president. That woman was like, you are gonna marry anything that comes your way, because that could be your last chance, and you are not going to embarrass me. So for me, this mother-daughter, this specific one, it had like, we just stood no chance with a mother like that. She stood no chance of anything else. So if she had been barren, that woman would have unalived her had she been barren. It's bad enough that she couldn't bear sons. That was just horrible on its own, according to that mother. So that mother did not have love for her daughter to inject in her to say, you are a female in this world, you can do great things, go live your life. No. Her life was, you are my child and you are not going to embarrass me. That's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Deboho. Mbali said you were looking for glimmers of hope with the mother, and you didn't see any, unfortunately. Kamu, I think you're next, then Kangela, then Tumi.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was like losing signal here and there, so I didn't catch a glimpse of everything else. But for me, I felt like it was mentioned earlier in the book that the mother wanted a daughter to be a reflection of herself. And I think the tie-in towards later on in the book when the mother confesses to Uju about her like enjoying what she enjoyed. She kind of saw like wanted the same Uju to do the same thing rather than wanting her better for a daughter. It was more of like, look what I went through, look how I survived. You can do it too because I did it as well, rather than I think it was the third time Uju was beaten black and blue at that point. Because it's after like the second time, I was like, this is either gonna end up in two ways. And one of them is like you might not even have a daughter anymore because we know the cycle goes on and on and on. It went on for like 20 years to some point you as a mother should have like said something and stepped in. So for me, I was like perplexed by that relationship with the mother and the daughter. And I think Yunya even mentioned the parentification of Uju, because at some point Uju wanted to say things, express herself like fully to her mother, but she couldn't because there was this whole trauma bonding of them losing her uncle as well. And then there's like even classism still plays a role in everything because she's like trying to maintain the certain status of this big madam, as they call it, as well as like like there's a phrase of batu batu kind of situation instead of just like letting go and like being there for your child, even though you were done wrong by her father. It does not mean that she should go through the same thing you went through just because you see her as an extension of yourself. So there's a bit of element of narcissism there as well. So it was very odd to experience. Like I had to stop at certain point, like every time she spoke in defense of that man, I had to stop, like because I was viscerally like upset. I had to shut down and like close the book and like put it away for a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Kamu. I can understand. I wanted to throw the book across the room many times throughout this book. And every time she just didn't stand up for her daughter, I thought, you just want her dead. But we'll get to that as well. Kangela, you're next. Then it was Tumi. Did you have your hand? Kangela, you can go next.
Yeah, I think for me on the mother-daughter relationship, I just would like to highlight the fact that mothers are in a unique position where they are expected to guide their daughters, but then that guidance tends to turn into projection. And sometimes they project their unhealthy survival tactics that they maybe that were relevant during their time. Because with Uju's mom, I thought so hard as to what exactly is this woman doing. But then what I think she's doing, she was just trying to secure for Uju what she secured for herself. I can understand that she is older. I guess during her time, being married was survival. You needed a husband to have a roof over your head, to eat, bear children, and that's it. She was probably born in the 50s or whatever, when women were not even allowed to work. So she didn't see Uju working, which was a projection from her As much as Uju was studying towards getting a degree and all that, but she didn't see that as something that she should be. She still saw her as a wife that or children or boys or whatever, or just someone that lived to please a man, because that's how she survived. And also you guys should also know that Uju's mom married her husband in absentia. So I think earlier in the book that's mentioned, I was like, what, in no way we're not doing that again. I mean, how do you marry someone in absentia? There's no consideration of you knowing that person or whatever. You just need to live with a man somewhere, please that man, and survive up until you die. That's just what she was trying to secure for Uju. It was something unhealthy that was not relevant, but she was just projecting that into Uju and bullying her in the process.
Thanks, Kanyelwa. I think you humanized the mother. I'm not sure if I agree, but yeah, I still didn't understand her rationale, because although and I understand you saying she kind of wanted to secure a future for Uju, but Uju wasn't getting an education. She had career aspirations and prospects, because Akin had kind of secured a doctor, right? Um,
Exactly.
so it's a challenge for me.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, if you have a daughter, maybe you're just trying to get her to 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 be able to sustain herself, to survive without a man or whatever. But then who knows, maybe times will change, and then in the next few decades that will not be relevant. But I guess that will be something that mothers of today will be trying to force their daughters into. Also, I think as a mother, you kind of in a position of power, because you force some things into your daughter, even if they don't agree. I mean, you can maybe force them to take a certain route at school or something, because you know that to be a way to survive. I think that's what transpired between Uju and her mother. She just she was trying to transfer something that was not relevant for Uju, and unfortunately not good for her as well.
Okay, points taken. Thank you, Kanyela. Then we've got Rachel.
I think for me, with the mother and daughter relationship, one thing that I picked up was that sometimes you do become the environment that you are in. Um, the Uju was very educated and she had prospects, and as she was narrating her mom and the things that her mom say and what everyone else says about marriage, she seemed unhappy and she seems to disagree with those opinions and the opinions that her society held. But eventually, she just ended up conforming to those standards and not sticking through to what she wanted and what she aspired. So I think that was a quite very interesting dynamic, as to you are educated and you have the means to not even get married to this man. Like, you don't have to get married to this man, but at the end of the day, she still, even despite a lot of challenges that she was going through, she still, yeah, it took her also long to leave the marriage. So I think for me it was very interesting to see how, like, sometimes it's easy to conform if that's what you are exposed to. And given also her friends, like, she was very similar to her friends and they had similar backgrounds, they went to the same church, and yeah, and even their mothers were all in arranged marriages. So I think that was quite an interesting dynamic for me.
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you so much. I think your last point about the role that the church plays, as well as her friendships, right, is an important one, because I want to go back to the point that I was made earlier, where I wanted to talk about the fact that we've discussed the mother extensively and the role that she played in Uju's decision. And some of you earlier said you think that if the mother hadn't been the type of mother that she was and had allowed Uju to make different decisions, that Uju would not have decided to marry Kgosi, or if she had decided to marry him, she would have left earlier, right? But when you bring up these other kind of institutions or structures that support patriarchy, like a community, like your friends, like the church, do you still think that despite these other kind of pillars that uphold patriarchy, Uju would have chosen differently? Because there are all these other influences, right? It's just not her mother. The church and the community you live in influences how you make these decisions. And I'm not convinced that she would have acted differently, because I'm not sure her personality and would have advocated for that. When I consider her and kind of put her in contrast with a Sally who lived in the same time and you chose differently. So your thoughts on kind of Rachel? Did you hear everything I said?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Rachel, you can maybe give your thoughts on what I just said.
Oh, sorry, my hand was up by mistake.
Okay, Snetemba?
I think she would have made different choices. Maybe she would have married Kgosi, but she definitely would have left him earlier, because every time she left him, she would go to her mother's house. She wouldn't run to her friends or the church. She would go to her mother's house, which means the person that she sought approval from the most was her mother. So if her mother had given her that go ahead to say, okay, this is not working for you, leave this marriage, she would have been able to enjoy everyone else's judgment. The biggest problem, the biggest thing that was keeping her there was her mother's opinion that she should stay.
Thanks, Nes. I think you've swayed me now. Thank you. Anne-Marie?
Yeah, I agree with that. Because also, what I really wanted to talk about, my favorite scene in the whole book was when her brothers came and did mob justice. They did the needful thing that needed to be done. And you know what? The way I felt reading that scene was the same way I felt. Do you remember when we saw those clips from the Montgomery Riverfront Brawl and there were chairs flying hours for having a fantastic time watching those clips? That's how I felt reading that scene, because I was like, this needed to be done ages ago. But what I felt really disappointed about was when she started to cover for him, because her brothers, they were ready to go second time. And she started to cover for him. I was like, at this point, we can't defend you, because her brothers were clearly showing like they disagreed with it, even against, you know, the societal norms, all of these things. They were showing actively like we can't have this happen to our sister. And then she started to cover for him. So I really do think that even if loads of other things were different, she probably would have gotten to a point herself where she believed, you know, everything that she had been socialized to believe so much that she would have found excuses for her husband, exactly the way she did when her brothers were trying to pull up. But yeah, that was the best scene out of the whole book. And there should have been a few more of those, a few more punch-ups, I think.
Anne-Marie, I think after this you should read like Razor Blade Tears, like one of those revenge stories, because you were ready to pull out all the punches there. But, yeah, thanks for that. I also quite enjoyed that scene and how her brothers came to her aid. So yeah, I love that. Connie, what are your thoughts on kind of the other factors that uphold patriarchy?
I agree with Sneh. If the mother was different or acted different, I think she would have made different choices, because in situations like these, you only need, especially somebody like your mother. If your mother gives you the permission to be who you are, everything and everyone else doesn't matter. We see it a lot. We live in a society where patriarchy is still very rife, right? But you see other girls who are raised in situations where their parents or primary parent are 100% supportive. They will take the different route because they do not need validation from the outside. They do not need it from school, from friends, from church. If your mom says you can always come back home. I mean, we see it with this whole people who come out gay or anything. If their parents are supportive, it doesn't matter if the world is ready to accept them. All they needed was that I can always come back to my parent who says, I'm enough. I'm not broken. I'm 100%. They go out there and be the best they can be in this weird and terrible world we live in. So I think if the mom was said to her, you know what, after everything I've seen and I've went through, you're not going to do it. You're not going to go through it. And I got your back every day, all day. If you have any problem, come back to me. So yeah, I don't think she would have taken the same route if the mom was 100% supportive of her. Yeah.
Thanks, Connie. I think I agree to a large extent about your parents giving you that confidence to exist and confidence of a conviction, right, in who you are. So thank you for that. Kgosi, you're next, or is it Sneh? Yeah, it's Kia and then Sneh.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on a point that Anne-Marie made about the pull-up, which was also genuinely my favorite scene. One of my favorite scenes was wherever the brothers were at was a good one. However, it did kind of hurt me and touch me the wrong way when the brothers said something along the lines of, but we are men too. We are also men in this family. You cannot treat our sister like this. That had me questioning the intention of why it is that they felt like it was appropriate to defend her or defend her honor in that sense. Because it's like, so essentially, a woman's body, a woman's life is always going to be a battleground for men. It didn't feel like they did it because it was not the right thing to do. It felt like they were trying to make a show of power to be like, no, we are also men as much as you are a man. And so we will not allow this because we are men. So it's like they also treated her as an extension of their manhood as well. To be like, if you are disrespecting her while I am around, that means you are disrespecting my manhood. This was never really about Uju and her protection. That's the part that really kind of soured them pulling up for me, because it was like, okay, so it wasn't even about me, it's about you. You're doing this for you.
And that's interesting. I mean, I didn't think about it that way. I thought it was a genuine, standing up for their sister. But I do agree that standing up for your honor is possibly another motivator, because eventually when she does want to leave again, they're also part of the people who convince her to stay.
Wants her to go back. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, I didn't think about it that way, but I'm happy you brought that up, because I found that the initial decision to pull up, and then the second time they say, but go back home, and they're part of the entourage that tries to convince her, go back to your husband. I couldn't wrap my head around those kind of the difference in reaction, but yeah, your explanation now, yes,
yeah,
I think it adds a layer to the complexity of their relationship. Thank you so much, Gia. Snetemba?
About what Anne-Marie said about that she eventually started covering for him so that the brothers wouldn't hit him again. Obviously, there's other implications to them beating him, because they could have killed him in prison and all of that. But the mother disapproved. So again, it goes back to the mother's opinion and her control over Uju's decision making. The mother disapproved. She disapproved so much that she made everyone start apologizing for that. So obviously, Uju is in this abusive relationship. Now her mother is also essentially abusing her. So her brothers defending her is subjecting her to more abuse from both of these people that are abusing her. So I don't think, again, it goes back to if the mother was different, everything else would have been different.
Thank you for bringing that that point, Sneh. I think it just it does add to the point that Anne-Marie brought up, that there's like a hierarchy of influence, and her mother was the most important and was the highest on that hierarchy. And if anything anybody else did would have been ineffective anyway, because the person to please would have been her mother. Thank you for bringing that up. Tebogo?
Thank you. Sneteva literally just said exactly what I was about to say. So everything really goes back to the mother. And the reason why the brothers would, as a brother, as a sibling, you would defend your other sibling, right? But then when they started convincing her to go back home, it's because their mother kept calling them and saying, go talk to your sister, tell her to go back home. So the mother was abusing everybody. And then the brothers were also tired of the mother calling them and disturbing them in their private lives about the sister. So they were like, you know what, just go back home and get this woman off our backs. It was never about the defense of the manhood. It's because this woman, what is the problem in this whole story? This woman cannot wrong acrimony. This woman was she's the first abuser in the story, and then she started abusing her daughter, and then started abusing everybody, even the brothers, because she kept on saying, calling everyone, you must go back to a matrimonial. You know what? Yeah, this woman is a problem. The brothers were defending this girl as any brother would. Though for those who have brothers, surely understand that brothers will just come to your defense no matter what. But because the mother was then telling them to say, hey, tell your sister to go back. That's why they kept then saying, you have to go back because this woman is breathing down our necks. So in this story, the wrong parent died.
You had to bring up acrimony. Okay, she was wrong in acrimony. Snetem, I see you've got your hand up. If Kamu's before you, but if you're having like a response to what Tebogo said, do you want to go first? If it's a response, but
Yes, it's a response. I think she was the perfect example of that women are the ones that uphold the patriarchy. Because the dad was just there. He was literally just there. We didn't hear much about what he thinks about anything, really. He was just there. But the mother was there upholding the patriarchy. That's the father is the main source of, the one that is enjoying it. Because again, he was the very same man that Kgosi is. So again, just that women uphold patriarchy.
thank you, Sneh. I mean, it's one of the things that I wanted to discuss later on about just, I think that came out quite clearly in this book. This idea that women are the ones who are one of the staunchest advocates and enablers of patriarchy. And in the church, there was the case with her mother, with her friends as well. So I completely agree with that. But let me give Kamu a chance to speak, and then Anne-Marie, and then I'm going to wrap it because I want to go to the next question.
First of all, I want to say thank you for the crash out, Tebogo. Enjoyed it. Because you basically epitomized what I was thinking. And like, I thought I was going to crash out today, but you take the cake. But for me, also with the mother, her power, I think one of the brothers eventually stopped talking to her because she was abusive to his wife and pressuring the wife to have more kids. So like her bullying was not just limited to her kids. She was very much relentless, and like it goes back to the point, I think it was Connie, about parents instilling confidence in their child and coming back. In this case, like the mother was very much Uju's first bully. So there was no other way out regarding that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think that's important to also understand that the mother's relationship with the brothers was, I guess, slightly less abusive than it was with Uju. And so I guess that's why that brother was able to stand up for himself and protect his wife. Anne-Marie, you're next.
Thanks. I really want to start by saying I fully agree with everything we're saying about the mum. But I just started to have a thought process, and maybe it's worth bringing in. And it's connected to the comment I made about whether Uju's dad is really like the silent villain in this story. And I think it's related to, well, my thought on that is related to the way in which we bear the brunt of the weight of patriarchy in any context across the globe. But I feel like also sometimes there is a disproportionate weight that's placed on us to then disrupt and dismantle this same patriarchy we are victims of. And the fact is, we see very briefly, and I do agree with the comment that was made earlier, we should have understood more around the dynamic between the mum and the dad. But it does feel like he, created this dynamic, this insecurity, this complex that the mother has, or contributed to it. Maybe there was other history there, and he's like getting off without being named as the main villain, really. But I think that we should really remember that he played a key role in the way that Uju's mother turned out. And as much as I do think that we all need to be doing work to dismantle the effects of patriarchy, I think that we should pay attention to where we may be placing disproportionate weight on women to be the people who are doing this work, because men are perpetuating it the most. And so we should be naming them where they are, playing parts in the story. I just wanted to bring that part of, because I feel like the dad was getting away a little bit scot-free.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. That was actually the next discussion point. So I'm glad you brought that up and kind of thought of it ahead. It really was about the father and daughter relationship and that dynamic that I wanted to talk about as well, because I also echo your sentiments that there seems to be a lack of accountability or responsibility placed on the dad. And in the book, they describe Uju and the dad's relationship as a very good relationship, right? She was the apple of the dad's eye. And, when she was born, she just became this changed man. And I kept thinking to myself, and when the mother tells her about the fact that, a lot of the times, or when she has that discussion with her mother, she realizes that there were often times when she got away with a lot of things that the mother didn't agree with because they were overridden by the dad, right? And she felt like she got to win. And I think she makes a statement along the lines of, her freedom came at a cost of her mother or something like that. But when I read that line, I thought, so if your dad a lot of the time was able to override your mother's decisions, and I'm sure it was small things when you're young, right? It's going out with friends or like silly stuff. Why couldn't he do the same when you were older and in this abusive relationship? And I agree with you. And so I want us to unpack that. I mean, I can't imagine a father who just loved their child and their daughter and has this beautiful relationship, because initially they painted him as this person who has no influence, and we ended up finding out that that's not the case. So, like, how did you see that relationship, this father-daughter relationship, and this passiveness, it seems, from the dad in protecting his own child? Tamu, you've got your hand up. Is this an old hand? Tamu? Okay. Any thoughts on the dad and how he just didn't show up for his daughter? Kangelwa and then Snetemba.
Yeah, I agree that that was really a silent villain, because I remember one of the conversations he was having with Uju about Uju's daughters growing up fast and they were going to be ready for marriage soon. And she was surprised that he mentioned that, but it actually showed that that's where the root cause of all of this is. But now I wanted to highlight that men tend to think that women what are things to be owned by men. Uju's dad seemed to believe that Uju does not belong to her to him anymore. Another man owns her, therefore he has no say on her, because I think there was a bit of a brief conversation between the two of them, but he seemed to say to her, you don't belong to me anymore. The abusive husband owns you now, therefore I can't protect you anymore. I think maybe it's from that ownership perspective. She was no longer his property now.
No longer his property, no longer his responsibility. Yeah, it's
Yes.
shocking. Thanks, Kanyelwa. Bali says, she initially says the dad low-key hated Uju. Now she says, no, he high-key hated her. Yeah, you have a point then, Bali. Snetemba?
Oh, I think I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I do agree that the dad was the silent villain, sort of the hand behind the curtain. And I feel like it's apparent from the beginning, because we always hear these opinions coming from the mother, Uju, you must behave like this to get a husband. But if he was truly not the villain or disagreed with his wife, he would have said something. He would have voiced his opinions from the beginning. He was the one who said Uju should go to school. But he never at any point says, well, let her finish school, let her pursue her dreams, just like we sent her to school to do. It was sort of a performance, I guess. There's this thing that people usually say, that fathers want to raise independent women or feminist women until they become women, and they realize that they will also question them and their authority and their beliefs. So I feel like it was getting to a point where Uju was going to start questioning him, and he was fine with her now going back to line. But also, any independence he gave Uju was by extension to abuse his wife. It was never to be like, I want you to be different and to live a completely different life. It was to abuse his wife. It was to just be like, I'm still above you. Yes, you're the one raising the kids and making all of these supposed decisions, but I still get the last word. It was never about Uju.
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for the last point about the possibility that his actions were kind of a reinforcement of the power hierarchy that exists, and to remind his wife, I guess, that the final say was with him. Thanks for that, Snake. Tebogo, you're next. And then Kamu, and then I want to close this section.
Thank you. Okay, I come from a sort of a different point of view. I think that because maybe it's because I just detest this mother so much, but because she was louder in the story, and we don't really get a background of the relationship between the mom and the dad. We just have that highlight of the dad once abused this mother, and that's it. But there was a point when the dad was talking to Uju, and then he said to her, if it were up to me, I would have you stay here at home for as long as you want to. But you know how your mother is. Therefore, you must go back home. So I think that it's a situation where this man loved his daughter, obviously, and she was his weakness. But because he also got to a point where he is just so tired of hearing this woman's voice, at that point they would have done anything to keep this woman quiet. And because happy wife, happy life, they just wanted her so silent. It didn't matter anymore at what cost. So I don't doubt that the father loved Uju. I don't doubt that he wanted to protect her. He just couldn't, in my opinion. He couldn't, because the woman was this loud. And there are so many families and scenarios that I've seen in my real life where situations are like that, where even some dads end up leaving the home completely because this woman is just too unreasonable, and they just rather leave. Hence we see a lot of households that have no dads. Men want to leave. This one just stayed, but he stayed quiet. It doesn't mean that he was the main abuser. He might have started the abuse, but the woman ran with it, and she took it too far, to a point where nobody could have a say. No one had a say. The final word laid with this woman. That was it. Not even the husband. No one could have said anything.
Yeah, Kamo, I can see your crush house that you're talking about with the evident.
Um,
I Kamo, you can go next.
No, for this one, I'm gonna disagree a bit with Tebogo because he has overridden her multiple times over smaller things. Because if he truly loved her, he would have done he would have said she should stay. He would have put his foot down. However, I feel like the reason why he didn't do what he needed to do is because he was guilty of doing the same thing, and I don't think that was properly dealt with, because if he had to deal with what was happening now, they'd also have to talk about and deal with what happened in the past as well. So I think in some degree he was shielding himself from the consequences of this whole eruption that also centers him as well, in essence, because when the mother talks about the abuse, it was that she was born and everything was fine. Everything was not fine, as Uji has mentioned. There were small things that she didn't recognize that her dad was doing in terms of overriding her mom's authority and stuff like that. Instead of, in a normal context, let's say I wanted to do something and go to my mom says no, and I go to my dad, and then my dad would automatically go to my mom and they speak about it before they come back to me. So that's my feeling about that. He was protecting himself from this whole eruption that might have had happened, that also involves him as the villain.
True. I mean, I get your point, and I to a large extent agree, because I also have to say I disagree, because when you see your child walk in and their one eye is half closed, black and blue, bruised, I can't imagine your justification being, oh, the mother's so loud and she screams all the time. I can't stand her
Guys, have
anymore.
you ever experienced an abusive mother? Guys, have you ever experienced a narcissistic mother? Yo, guys, wait until a narcissistic mother takes over a household. Not even the chief or the elders have a say.
I agree that she was problematic, but I think the way in this particular book they have written her, and the way that Uchu also says the mother got overridden on a lot of decisions by the dad, I think we're making him less empowered than he actually was. But I think we can agree to disagree. I'm just thinking about it from the point of view on how she is written in the book. Snare, is there something else you want to add before I close this?
I just want to say you can never convince me that the mother was a bigger villain than the father. You cannot. That man had power over that woman. He hated her. She knew that he hated her. So any chance that he would have used to show her that he hated her, he was going to use it. He did not care about Uju. If he did love Uju, it was definitely less than he loved himself. If it was because she was loud, then he kept quiet to protect his peace over his child being abused. You cannot convince me that the dad is below the mother's evilness. He's definitely the number one final boss.
Thanks, Snare. I think we can wrap this up. I think we can agree to disagree. Um, on this point, but thank you. I think you all raised important points, but I think we all recognize that the dad could have played a bigger role in protecting his child. So thank you for that engagement. What I want to talk about now are Uju's friendships and how they supported her decision making. Because Uju meets Chinelo and Ada through her mother. I mean, they grew up together because their parents met up when they were young, and they become these three besties. And kind of they're the same age, and they go through life stages together. I found it very interesting, and looking at Uju's relationship with her friends, it brought back that saying that you are as good as the company you keep, right? When I was juxtapositioning Uju's relationship and friendship with Chinelo and Ada, and how they impacted her decision making, and her relationship with Sally, right? How their values of those two friends, Chinelo and Ada, might have supported her staying longer, and how having a friend like Sally might have helped her leave sooner. So how do you think that her friends contributed to her decisions to marry Ngozi and also to stay with him? Gia?
I think it goes without saying that when you are raised in the same environment, you people will carry very, if not the same, very similar ideals and very similar thoughts on how things should be. So when there is nobody in the mix like a Sally, you will think that this is normal. You will think that this is how things are supposed to be done. And in fact, you will encourage each other like they did to stay in their marriage. And whenever it was that they spoke about their marriages and how tough they are, it's almost it like became a joke. It became a joke in between them of like how hard it is and how awful it is and how they will call you a witch if you are a weirdo. Let me just say that for brevity. If you're not a good wife, they will call you a witch. Wherever there is a problem in between his family, you are the wife are the problem. No, he's arguing with his family because you are whispering in his ear about something. So they would share all these stories with each other. It almost sounded like encouragement for each other to stay within these situations. It almost sounded like it was exactly the situation that the mother would say that, do you think you're the first person to be beaten by your husband? It's normal. Everybody goes through it. And whenever she was talking about leaving or talking about it actually being something that she doesn't think she can sustainably stay in, it was, oh, do you want another woman to come enjoy the fruits of your labor? It was always just encouragement of staying within the mix. I think if she had kept in touch with Sally more than she had, that would have, I think she would have gotten out of the situation even faster than she did. I think the first time she would have left would have been the last time she would have left. That would have been the end of it, because Sally doesn't give the impression that she's the character that will allow you to stay in a situation that if she sees that you see that this is not the thing for you, that she's going to allow you, encourage you to stay within it. She probably would have told her, no, I think this is your cue to head out. Here's a lawyer. She would have referred that lawyer much sooner. So I think it would have been great if she had more friends like Sally.
Thanks, Kia, for that, for your thoughts on that. Connie, you're next.
The storyline around the friendship, it irritated me so much because it didn't feel like a friendship to me. It felt like people you know. Nowhere in the book, I felt like these people were friends. It's like our mothers were friends, therefore by default, we're supposed to hang together. There's not even a single scene where I got a sense of friendship, a sense of we looking out for each other. It's like, yeah, we know each other, we grew up in the same block or whatever, therefore we're supposed to be, friends. I think, was it Sally? I think Sally was more of a friend to her than her actual friends. So that irritated me and annoyed me so much that there was nowhere in the book where this girl had any friends whatsoever. These are people she knew because they went to church together or their mothers were friends. So yeah, it rubs me the wrong way when we even use the term friends. She didn't have friends. That's my take on that whole friendship business.
In the chat, Gia says it wasn't a friendship, it was a cult. I agree strongly.
100%. 100%.
Leah, you're next, and then Tebogo, and then I want to close this part off. Leah, are you able to talk?
Oh, okay. Hi. Yeah. Okay. Honestly, let me just give my honest opinion on this. I really liked their friendship at first. I thought, I think maybe in terms of levels, I think as Connie has said, maybe it didn't seem like a very serious friendship. I think if you define friendship from a very like best friend kind of friendship, but their dynamics were good. And I want to say that in the fact that they really supported each other, even with their shenanigans. Like at the beginning, I appreciated the fact that the main character, I keep forgetting her name, she was, she was smart, she was ambitious, and they were there for her, like they were pushing her on. When she got into, and I want to remember this, I think I've looked at their friendship and I've compartmentalized it according to their lives, like the series of their lives, in terms of at the beginning, this guy seemed like a perfect catch. Like he was a churchman. He was the ideal guy for given the circumstances, especially at when they were pursuing, when he was pursuing the guy. And for that, like they introduced to him. They encouraged her to go back to church, which I think was a good habit based on their lives. And that's why I'm saying, based on their context, I kind of feel like it was a good friendship. And again, based on the context of who they were and the lives that they were living, I don't want to pick them apart from my perspective. I want to pick them apart from their friendship dynamics. And for me, I kind of feel like the way they were, like, the way they were just supporting each other. I felt so sad when they actually fell it fell through at the end with Ada and the main character. It was very heartbreaking for me because I just thought that they would go through the loss of the friendship together. But I think it also just painted a picture of the friendship dynamics and how, different friendships, as I think as Connie said, maybe you think about friendship in levels, but for them, this surface was working for them. Like it wasn't as deep as we would want it to be, but this surface friendship was working for them. They were there for each other. They understood that they were in weird marriages. And I look at it from the, just the way different generations view friendship. And maybe for them, this is what they thought friendship was. Even because I really feel like they supported each other, whatever level of friendship that was. And even saying that, okay, now looking at it from my angle, that is now from me arguing from, I think, yeah, definitely the friendship, if they were deeper friends, some of these things would not have been happening. But then I look at the way they were talking about Ada and the way she was described by the author being like the pretty girl who was supposed to marry well. And, she did. I think that happened automatically. I forget the friend's name, the one who passed away, unfortunately. But exactly, she did pursue her career. She married a man who supported her dreams, and they were just there for each other. I think the only problem was the main characters different. The guy changed, and I think because one or another their dynamics were not, I think they were not supposed to really interfere, but I feel in terms of the surface at which they were, I really liked their friendship, and it broke my heart when they ended up not talking at the end. I was kind of hoping that the book was going to end with some reconciliation. Like I was just crossing fingers that, she's going to show up at her door and maybe they hug it out and things like that. Because even the fact that the main character, please tell me her name again.
Uju,
the fact that Uju did not intervene when the friend was getting sick, again, just shows that their friendship was just surface. Like she wasn't going to do much beyond that. It was just supposed to be listening to each other. They attend each other's children's events, and just take it up from where their parents were, because you can tell even from their parents. I think they just took on what their parents already had, and for that, I would judge them that the friendship for me was okay. Yeah, but I wish it had ended better. I wish she wouldn't have died. Like it just goes to show again the the effects of whatever. I think it's a patriarchy, to be honest, because she seemed like she had it going on. I didn't understand why they put that character, why they then started insisting on her having a son. Like I didn't understand why she needed another baby. She was the character that I was rooting for. She seemed like she had gotten what she wanted. She got married, she went back to work. She seemed like she was the one who was going to give the book a different turn. And then again, I'm seeing her getting desperate to give birth. It just broke my heart. But yeah, that I think that's what I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. You covered so much. Thank you so much. Tebogo?
Thanks, Lakini. I know Leah covered everything. At first, reading through the friendship, I thought it was just a mommy club vibes, just a friendship of convenience. It felt like a friendship when that one passed away, when Choma passed, and I was like, was it that deep? Then I felt sad. I was like, I didn't realize this friendship was this serious. But even Uji's gonna mourn, be a zombie for a while. I thought it was just, mommy club, let's hang out with our babies, let's gossip about our husbands, let's do this. Oh, I need a place to stay for the night, come through. I thought it was very on the surface. I only realized the day when Choma passed, and I was like, oh, I must have missed it. I actually thought I missed something reading. And now I'm starting to understand, or no, it actually, there wasn't any depth, but then it, like Leah and Connie said, maybe it was the friendship during those times. But also I don't understand friendships. Maybe that's another problem that I have. But I
No,
thought, yeah, it
yeah.
was on the surface for me. I thought it was just characters that are put together to make a story, to give a storyline. But when the death occurred, and then I was like, okay, then it was deep. There was something there.
No, they do explain that they met because of their parents. So from when they were babies, essentially, they were born, and they've known each other for, I guess, at the time, probably they were in the 30s or so, or 40s when Chinelo passed away. So 40 years of knowing somebody, I would expect you to just shed a tear and really mourn that person. I think they felt more like siblings than friends. Um, we've got like 14 minutes left, and I still have so much I want to cover. So I want to just talk about Uju's relationship with her daughter, right? She says somewhere that as the daughter's the eldest daughter, as she's witnessing the abuse that she endures, right? That she knows that she hates her father. And then she says, but I'm sure she resents me as well to some extent. Having looked at her relationship with her mother and how her mother transferred trauma to her, how did you view her decision to stay in that marriage and how it impacted her eldest daughter particularly, and that generational trauma transfer? Leah, is this an old hand?
Oh, yes, it is. Sorry, yes, it is.
Okay. Anyone want to talk about that relationship between Ego and Uju and this possible resentment, which I think really is justified? Teboho, you've got your hand.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. For me, that is when I really started getting extremely upset at Uju, because she stayed too long when Ego started realizing what was going on, in my opinion. Because it's one thing, because I remember saying to Uju as I was reading, like, it's one thing to have your mother put you in this situation, and stay because your mother is this and this and that. But when as a mother yourself, how do you put your daughters in a situation where now they have to witness this? And Ego now has to grow. Like, Ego has no fun childhood memory. Her first childhood memory is her mother screaming. So as a mother, you have to get to a point where you say, it has to stop here. Like, I just feel like she failed her daughter, in my opinion. She left. Yes, she left in the end, but she stayed way too long. She stayed way too. Now Ego is damaged because of her decision to stay. And that's what I don't understand. Like, as a woman, at some point you have to say, as a mother, as a daughter, I understand and I forgive you for what you did. But as a mother, you have to make a different decision. At this point, we are putting her mother on the side. Now she has to make decisions as a mother. You make different decisions. When you're a daughter, you make different decisions. When you're a mother, you make different decisions. And I've said this all the time, like every day in my life. When it comes to your children, Nkampane go fela ditlhare. I don't even know how to say this in English, but when it comes to your kids, let's burn the entire state. Because you don't allow your kids to see that, to experience that. You are not the one that is supposed to damage your own children. You come from damage, we understand, we sympathize. But you have to be the one that says, you don't pass this point. When my child is here, you are not welcome. I feel like Uju, then I was really mad. I was like, cut, you know?
Thanks, Tebogo, for that. I find it interesting. It's not a question, but it's because of your response. I'm going to let Tia talk next. But I just wanted to leave you with this thought that I love that you said when it comes to your child, basically, you're burning the building down. And yet you were defending that and saying there was a mother who was screaming in her ear, and therefore he couldn't really protect her. Should he not have burned the house down for Uju? But that's not a question. That's not a question. I was just asking. Yeah, you can come in.
Yeah, that's actually a good point because it's like, okay, so are we out here saying that the dad is not parenting because he didn't do anything? He didn't do anything at all. But no, I think I agree with a lot of what the Rojo said. That listen, let's flip this whole planet upside down when it comes to the kids. And although I will say that I'm speaking from a perspective of not knowing what motherhood is like or just being a parent in general, but it was horrific. It was horrific knowing that one of the earliest memories Ego would have is of her mother laying in a pool of her own blood, having to go fetch a doctor for her because her mother doesn't even remember how she ended up in hospital that one time. That was horrifying. That was absolutely horrifying. And even though we can recognize that Uju had some redeeming qualities where she never really policed her daughter's personality or her preferences or the way she thinks. In fact, she defended her in that sense. But one could say that she stayed for so long because it was easier. It was easier than having to deal with the social fallout from her mother, the exclusion from her friends and her church, the not to even speak about what her husband would have treated her like. It it felt like she chose to stay because it was easier. And that is, I'm not going to say if that's a good or a bad thing, because it's also like horrifying to imagine that you will be so battered and beaten by life, because we must also remember that as much as this is fiction, it is a reflection of the sort of lives that we live. That you as a person, as strong-willed as you may be, you can also be beaten down just as hard for you to feel like the complacency of this abuse is better than dealing with whatever the fallout is. That was the really scary part for me about that relationship, that even when she recognized that Ego has some resentment, some well-placed and well-deserved resentment for her, she would rather it stay this way instead. Until it got to the point where she almost died. Ego almost died, and that was the part where she woke up. And it's like, logically, you shouldn't have to get to that point for your kids to have seen that, for your kids to have heard that, for them to have felt that. Because at some point, I think she mentioned that Ego stopped running to her dad after he came back from being imprisoned, because she couldn't understand what it was, but she felt it, and she was like, no, I don't like who this person is. I don't know who this person is. And I think it should have been a conversation from then, but then obviously we know how the conversations here unfolded. So maybe that shouldn't have happened at all. So then what should have been the next result? What should she really have done? Because like I said, sometimes the social exclusion is almost worse than the physical battery. It's almost worse. And it's easier to just pass down a different flavor of the trauma to your kids, all in the sake of keeping the peace. So it was very sad. For me, it was a very sad thing to see.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, reading, I think I particularly was traumatized by the her come to Jesus moment when Kgosi attacks her and then attacks Ego. I was like, your child almost died. Like it was just a little bit too late because she
It's
could
a
have
little
died. Like,
thing.
and the worst is when she calls and she says, "I've got a hospital bill." I mean, he knows what he's done. And he
That
says,
man can go
"Let her
burn.
die." I was like,
He can go burn in hell, honestly. As fictional as he is,
"What?
he can go to hell.
How did we get here?"
And that was
But
another thing where it's like, no, clearly you are trying to prove a point. It's not
yeah.
even about, you really just don't, you said fuck them kids, excuse my French. That's what you said. And you were trying to prove a point when you said that, because you're like, even if you were to die, it's not in my hands anymore, because I want to exert my power. I want to show you that you are nothing without me, that even these kids will die if you are without me. And that was, oh man, that man, oh my God, he can, oh my God. Anyway, yeah, that's all.
Oh, thank you for that. I think I had I don't know which question to ask because we've got 5 minutes. Okay, let me just ask about the ending, right? She leaves Gozi after he almost kills their child, and she spends weeks in hospital, does want to pay the bill. And she leaves, and the person who helps her is what is the lady's name? Sister Polatito, the one with the beautiful scene, one of my favorites as well, in the church where they don't want her to speak, and then there's whole rakas, and then everyone's business is aired in the church. Wonderful, wonderful scene. But she leaves him, and I love the fact that the women who supported her and helped her to leave her abusive situation and who are not judgmental as well were the women who were ostracized essentially. So it was both Sally and Sister Poletita who enabled that. And I just want to put this as a point that I learned and not a question, because I want to just wrap up with the last question that I think whenever abusive relationships and gender-based violence is discussed, it's always, why doesn't the woman leave? And I was glad I read the story, because I felt like the question should be asked, how do we enable women to leave? How do we aid them to leave? And I love that Sally and the sister Polatito character, that's what they allowed her to do, right? Giving her access, allowing her to tell her story without being judgmental. But anyway, I just wanted to highlight those two characters that were like shunned in society. So the end happens, and there's a note that is left by Akin. Akin was this character that comes in and out that she never picked, and there's a note that is left. And her children give to her when she comes home. And they'd had a discussion where he had said, "Come to America and join me." And she says, "Why don't you come back to Nigeria?" So the end happens. How do you feel about her and Akin at the end? Do you want them to end up together, or do you feel that her journey is complete without him? And I know that there's a sequel, but when you finished and got to the end, did you want them to end up together or not, and why? September?
I was rooting for them until about the middle of the book when I realized that she's like in this marriage long term. At the end, I would have liked her to get her divorce and just live with her children for a while and maybe reconnect with Akin a few years later. But at the end, I just wanted it to be her and her children without a man being involved.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Connie, you're next, and then yeah.
Oh God, Sinetemba said it 100%. I was annoyed. Why are you bringing another man in your situation after everything you've seen? Leave men alone. Like, just that annoyed me. What's with the new man? Haven't you seen enough? Take care of your kids. Make sure your kids are okay. Fix your situation. We don't want to end a book on, oh no, she left the abusive man, but found a better man. Leave men alone. Like, get yourself together. I hated the narrative of we constantly need to be rescued by men. Like, Can you just be without a man? Just for a second. Girl, your kids are traumatized. Your kids are broken. You are broken. Your whole life is broken. What's with a man? Like, leave men alone for a second.
Connie, I'm gonna talk you off the ledge and give Kia a
Thanks.
chance to speak. Not Kia, Kamu. Kia, have you spoken? Sorry.
I feel like I've spoken enough, but just as last sentiment, I actually, not knowing obviously the sequel, I haven't read the sequel, but I was happy. I was low keying at the end. I was like, yeah, they're finally gonna do it. Yeah, they're finally gonna do it. But also now that Connie actually said it, maybe I should get my brain in order. Decenter men. You're right.
Thanks, Kia. Leah and then Kamu. Leah?
All right. Same thing that has been said. That woman needs to heal. And I want to also think if it was the other way around, that man does not deserve her. And I mean, she took him, she went married another guy, knowing very well that he liked she knew that guy liked her. And she tagged him along for a while, sending him those silly messages and letters to America, whatever nonsense she was doing there. Stupid girl. Then after all that, she kept quiet, like, oh, I want to take care of my family. Nya, 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 nya. Then after she's kept quiet, then all of a sudden she comes back and she's like, oh, I've been beaten enough. Take me back. That whole thing pissed me off. That was the part that I hated in that whole book. That man should have ghosted her, blocked her, and sent her pictures of himself with a new woman. That's the only time I think that should have happened. That woman needs to go home, take care of her child who is still hurting, whose head is still, I think she has like stitches on her head. And on top of that, she just needs to go live in a village somewhere in isolation and try to push her life into the right direction. Ask herself, what is it about me that made me stay in this relationship for this long, so stupidly, with my education and children? Before she decides to marry another man or decides, she should not even be looking at men. She should just be looking at herself in the mirror, breaking that mirror, finding another one, breaking it, going to a therapist, breaking another mirror, and so on and so forth. But please, that man needs to leave her. If that book has a sequel of them finding love with each other, I will buy those books and burn all of them. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for another crash out. This has been crash out union. Wow, guys. This book has really triggered so many people. Kamu, guys, we're running about 3 minutes late. Can you please indulge me with another 5 minutes for Kamu to speak and then for me to ask you one final question, then we're done. Kamu, you can speak? Thank you.
Yeah. I love how I'm always after the person who has a crash out. That seems to be like the sequence of today. But for me, I was neither here or there about the ending. For me, I've always been against that Akin and Uju relationship because it's student lecturer dynamics and the power dynamics and ethics around that has always like rubbed me the wrong way. I was like very wearisome of that relationship from the jump. Because if they met later on in life, they encountered each other in some capacity, fine, all well and then. But then they met each other at varsity. He was in a position of power. She was a student. So it was just weird for me in that sense. And I agree very much with Connie and Leah. Just like sort yourself out, sort your issues out. Don't like just be by yourself for a very long time because you're carrying a lot of trauma and you need to work on you and your relationship with your kids and how you plan to move forward from here. Otherwise, there's no need for a relationship with a king, to be honest.
Thanks, Kamu, for that. Yeah, I understand your point around the power dynamic and varsity, but in their defense, I think the age difference was 4 years. She was 19 years, 24. So I think he was still relatively young compared to her husband, who had a 10-year age difference. But I understand from like a professional point of view that is like on blurry and murky waters, that power dynamic. But thank you for that. I'm done with my questions. The final one really is not even a question. It's just going around and asking everyone, having read this book now and knowing that there's a sequel, and the sequel is called We Were Once Girls, where the story continues and you get to see the younger girls now, the next generation, and their life experiences. So Ada's children, Uju's children in the sequel. Are you going to read the sequel? And if you have read the sequel, are you glad that you have? So I just want to go from top to bottom, because we read this book and ask everyone as the closing question if you want to read the sequel, or if you already have, and if you don't intend to, and why. Anne-Marie, you're first.
I don't know if I'd read the sequel just yet. I think I'd have to maybe, if I had people recommend it, I would. But at the moment, nah.
Are you not interested to know what happens? You're just like, whatever.
Not really. No. Sorry to the people in the story. No.
Valid. Connie, what are you going to read the sequel, or have you read the sequel?
You know, the sad part is I already bought the sequel before I read this piece. So I'm gonna read it because it cost me money to buy it. But just why? I should stop buying sequels before reading the initial books, because what the hell?
At least you got a great lesson in reading.
What lesson? What
Which
lesson?
is to buy the first book first. buy series in order. That's your lesson.
100%.
Esther?
Yeah, I guess I'll read.
Okay, great. Esther? Are you intending to read the sequel, or have you read it?
After hearing everything, I was gonna read it, but now I'm a bit doubting. Seems like you guys will see me reading it and you'll judge me. I don't know.
Don't let societal pressures, okay, dictate whether you read this book or not. We already have learned important lessons in this book. Don't let society pressure you. Yunya?
Yeah, unfortunately, I have already read the sequel, and I am here to read bad books so that you people don't read them. I do not recommend it at all. And I think it's not even just because of the storyline, even just the way the story is told, it is going nowhere. There was no point to having that sequel, honestly.
Okay, we've been fairly warned. Thank you, Yunya. Fatuani?
I have not read the sequel and I do not plan on reading it. And the main reason is basically what Yunai said, that there was no need to write a sequel. I truly believe that where it ended is enough. I struggled to finish it, but I was like, you know what? Yeah, it's one book is enough in my opinion.
Thanks, Fatu. We're really decreasing the sales of the sequel, but it's fine. Katlego?
I'm curious, so I want to read it, but maybe it's because I haven't finished the book. Maybe I'll change my mind later. I will see.
I'd suggest that you get it from the library, seeing the views in this group before you buy it. Yeah, you're next.
I'm actually invested in Ego's story now, so I think I really would like to read it if she is in the sort of flow of the story. Firstly, I just better not get the same book. I don't want to hear the same discourse. I don't want to hear nothing of the same problems that we had in this book. It better be something else, or I'm gonna crash out. But I actually do want to read it. Yeah, I'm just worried about Unia's review of this one. I think I might also have to go get it from a library. I'm not gonna buy it.
Yeah, please, after getting it, crash out in the group. We like being entertained.
Wait,
Thank you.
you will see me not at 2 a.m.
It's no problem. Standing up. Kangelwa?
No, I don't think I'll get it. This one was a lot to go through. I'm not putting myself through that again. Yeah.
Fair, Kangelwa, shame. Leah? Leah, are you able to speak? Okay, I'm going to move to Mbali.
Yeah, just like Connie, I already have the book. So
Good
I
luck.
don't have a choice but to read it. Yeah, so I'll definitely have to read it.
Okay, good luck. Pauline, are you able to speak? Okay, maybe not. Ready, admin?
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Hi. I think from the comments, I don't think I'm ready to read it.
Okay. Okay, prepare yourself and then come back and let us know what happens. Thank you. Ready?
I think I'll keep the score for now. I'll be waiting for Connie and Mary to tell us what's happening. And
Okay.
I give you
Okay, we'll wait for Connie. Rita?
Hi, friends. I think I want to know what happened, but not now, probably in 2 years. Yeah, I'm not ready for another another audit. I went through in this book. So yeah, maybe in 2 years. But I already have the book.
Okay, great. Sneh? Then Tebogo?
I don't think I'm gonna read it. I think the characters that the author comes up with are interesting, but she doesn't know what to do with them. So the story of Ego sounds like it would be interesting, but I don't think she would make it interesting.
Okay, that's fair. Tebogo?
I've invested in the story and I'm gonna go out and get the book this week because I want to know what's happening. And if I have another crush out, I'll tell you guys. But I'm so invested. I want to know what's next. I want to know. So I'm gonna know.
We've enjoyed your crash shots and we'll await them next week. Dumi, you're the final person.
Yeah, I'm also invested, so I'm definitely reading the sequel.
Oh, Dumi, you're gonna cry so much as always.
I didn't cry, guys. I did not cry. Please.
Okay, didn't get that bad. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Thank you, everybody. I know we went over time, but I think this discussion was so much fun. I was a bit nervous because I kind of volunteered yesterday, and I had read this. No, we're not rating. Why are we rating? You all hated it. It's clear.
Hey, let it be on record. I will be reading the sequel. I bought it. I was very excited to get it. I enjoyed reading this book, so I will be reading the sequel. I didn't hate.
Me too. Nami, I enjoyed it, guys. I enjoyed it as well. I don't want. That's why I've been so quiet.
We've run out of time, guys. As Anne-Marie said, we're gonna take it to the chat.
Yes.
And then we're gonna put a poll, and then we can debate all the issues that were outstanding. We're gonna discuss Uncle Ikena. We're gonna discuss his disappearance and the obsession and what. We're taking it to the group. Taking it to the group. But thank you everybody for being such a wonderful
Thank you,
audience.
Lucky.
Pauline, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I have a question. How can I join the group? My friend sent me the link because I was crashing out on my WhatsApp status. She was like, I have a group.
Okay.
I'm so mad. I haven't finished it yet though.
Okay.
How can I join the group?
Okay, I'm going to hand over to Atlekang, who's the founder of the book club, to give that information and to close us off. But thank you, everybody. Had so much fun. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Pauline, is your friend in the group?
I think, but she's not here. I think she's left. She has left.
Is it Dawn?
No.
Can she share the link to your group to the group to you. Otherwise, which social media platform are you on?
WhatsApp.
Aren't you able to put it on the chat now, like just to copy and paste on the chat?
No, I don't have the group link, and she won't be able to copy. Is it possible to copy the group link?
Let me get the link. Let me get the link.
Where can
I'll
I
post
find
it.
it? Where can I find it?
Tumi's putting it in the chat. Can you access the chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna get it just now. Oh my days. Where the hell is the link now?
Alternatively, Pauline, please send me a text here.
That's my WhatsApp number.
What
I've
country?
sent. Pardon?
Are you in South Africa?
No, Kenya.
Kenya, okay. The country code for Kenya?
+254.
Okay. I'll add you to the group now.
Yeah, thanks, because I can't even see the share.
But otherwise, guys, thank you for joining tonight. It was a great discussion as always. I'm happy then that I didn't invite the author because you guys are. What have I created? We're gonna do it again. Next month we're reading Things Fall Apart, and hopefully somebody else is going to host that. I haven't read the book as yet, so I look forward to reading it. So yeah, you guys, thank you for joining tonight. Pauline, I'm adding you, and we will continue this conversation in the group.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
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 Pauline, are you